This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Please take your seats. A quorum of 50 is present. I call our special town meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and join us if you wish. Mr. Carl Keener will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keener. Please be seated. Good morning, fellow citizens of Southampton. Welcome to our special town meeting. We haven't met here on a Saturday morning since 2007. Thank you for your continued support. It's an honor to be elected your town moderator. I enjoy what I do. For full transparency and disclosure, I also serve you by being Southampton's Cemetery Commissioner. There is no compensation for this privilege to serve you. I devote my time as clerk of the Southampton Cemetery Commission to be the contact for burials, requests, and all communications matters for the commission. It's a busy season, and I thank you for prioritizing this morning. I have selected Ms. Sierra Simmons to be my deputy town moderator. Is she here yet? Yeah. She has accepted and she will serve as Southampton's deputy moderator through our annual town meeting without objection. Congratulations, it's unanimous. Will our town clerk, Lucy Dalton, swear you in? Come forward, Sierra. Yeah, she'll come.
I leave. Sierra, when we call the article, you have to come up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Madam Moderator, it's a term we probably haven't used in our 250 year since the beginning, 252 years ago with our town meeting, so I hope we use it more often. Our town meeting is a business meeting of Southampton, our legislative branch session, called according to a posted warrant. It is the official record of what will be discussed and the only topics of which our town meeting may take action this morning. Our warrant was signed on March 5th by the constable. Our local participatory democracy honors 400 years of self-governance and a tradition of town meetings. These gatherings instill the value of self-government in Americans and demonstrated their inalienable rights to self-determination independent of British control. This commitment ignited a revolt and fueled a revolution, making the voices and actions from town meetings an essential part of our heritage. A tradition I started here 19 years ago is to honor those we love who have moved on ahead. May we have a moment of silence now in keeping with Southampton's culture for those who have moved on ahead since we last met. Hold them dear in our hearts. This morning, our special town meeting will be broadcast locally on Channel 191 and streamed on the eMedia YouTube, easthamptonmedia.org. That link can also be found on the eMedia Facebook page and Instagram. Thank you, Tim Riley, Jackson Foote, and Jeff Mastriani and Easthampton media. Articles are posted in at least 5 locations to warn the public about a legislative meeting. You have taken heed of the warning. Attendance used to be mandatory, and tardiness incurred fines. It remains the purest form of democracy. Our forefathers sacrificed their lives to protect this freedom. Southampton initiated town meeting 252 years ago. The executive branch of our town's government, the Select Board, Finance Committee, Treasurer, Collector, Accountant, Town Clerk, and Administrator have worked hard to create and weigh in on this morning's special town meeting warrant articles. Their work is done. While some members of the executive branch sit in the front, according to our tradition, they do not have more of a vote or input than any of you in our special town meeting. The town moderator's rules, rather than a town council's legal opinion, apply while our town meeting is in progress. Your moderator allows commercial TV cameras, which is a privilege, not a right, provided they stay at the back of the town meeting room on the far side of the floor or outside of the building, avoiding aisles or hallways. Duties of a moderator. As your town moderator, my role is to facilitate an open process that voters can trust, administrating rules and guidelines in an even-handed, impartial, and consistent manner, regardless of who you are. I do not guarantee any specific outcome. I make sure those who want to address this town meeting have the opportunity to keep the integrity of our town meeting as intact as possible. Both sides will be heard regarding each article. No one has ever been denied the opportunity to speak at any town meeting I have moderated. The moderator's authority is limited to the process, not the outcome. I trust the outcome to you, the fully informed voters. Procedures, achieve goals rather than manipulate town meeting proceedings. I assist every dedicated voter as I serve the town. Therefore, if your inexperience here is holding you back, let me guide you through the process this morning. Anyone can challenge my process with a point of order shouted from your seat. I will invite you to the microphone where you describe what pending action is frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary to proper procedure. Any attempts to misuse this as a tactic to usurp the floor will be addressed firmly. Duties of voters. Your responsibility is to serve as the legislative branch of our town government for this morning's articles. You have the power to enact laws, control the budget, and exercise your freedom of speech. Speaking and participating in a town meeting is a right, but like all rights, it should not be abused or denied. Ground rules, courtesies, guidelines. It's essential to establish them early and remain committed to them. Town meeting is a legislature subject to its rules on the Commonwealth laws. It requires regulations. One of my duties as your moderator is to safeguard the rights of individuals against illegal encroachment, whether unintentional or otherwise. Our town meetings are conducted according to our general laws, our bylaws, and the traditional customs and practices we follow for many years. They are guided by the principles and rules of conduct outlined in town meeting time, a handbook of parliamentary law. This organic process continues as our customs, traditions, and practices evolve. Once a motion is read and I have asked for and received a second, I invite a pro statement followed by a con statement. All discussions must be relevant to a motion under a warrant article and with the scope of each article before us, including the merits or lack thereof of the motion. It's when after a comment is ruled out of order or scope, the speaker continues to debate the moderator. At that point, the speaker is directed to sit down. Speaking at the mic, ready to contribute something new, please approach the microphone at the front. Stand in line to be acknowledged by the moderator in order. First come, first heard. I recognize speakers only when they stand at the mic, unless it's a point of order. Address the moderator. Clearly state your name and address. Please direct your opinions, questions, answers, and remarks to me, your town moderator. Avoid speaking directly to other voters. This helps to avoid lecturing, bullying, intimidation, and cross-examinations. The moderator is responsible for town meeting conduct as authorized by our general laws, Chapter 37, Sections 15 and 17. Speak up to 5 minutes at a time, as long as you stay on topic regarding the motions and address me, not the town meeting audience. And no more than twice on any article, except to correct an error or answer a question. Please ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard before you ask to be listened to a second time on an article, and make concise, to the point remarks. I will permit anyone who has previously spoken to address the meeting a second time with a new point or rebuttal, no repetition. Before you cast your vote, whether yes or no, you are free to question, amend, and table or kill any motion that is to legislate in a civilized manner. Amendments must be submitted in duplicate. Please print your name on it for our records. Cross-examinations are out of order. Rude behavior, especially shouting, bullying, lecturing, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. No applause. This meeting is deeply rooted in traditions that span several hundred years. Please show respect for your neighbors who may vote differently than you. Anyone unwilling to comply with these rules will be removed after the third warning, so let this be our first warning. Anyone unsatisfied with the lack of information for an article may motion to adjourn town meeting to a time certain so that the presenter can obtain the necessary information. I will use tellers for counting unless it is unanimous or clearly a majority. Our pre-appointed counters, when needed, will count a section as a pair, then compare their counts. If they disagree, the count resumes to ensure a complete and accurate count is announced so everyone can hear. They count from front to back. Right to speak. These rules of etiquette are unique to town meetings. Are there any reason to change the order of the articles? Hearing none, will proceed. Simply because someone states something doesn't make it accurate. Majority that leans towards approval, denial does not make it right. Any non-voting speakers, the vet? Listen attentively, vote according to your conscience. Thank you all for your patience and for respecting everyone tonight, this morning. These guidelines of habit. These guidelines will help us have a more efficient meeting. Can I have a motion for Article 1, please?
Thank you. Mr. Moderator, I move that $3,200,000 is appropriated for engineering/architectural services to build a public safety building and all costs incidental and related thereto, including an owner's project manager, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $3.2 million under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other enabling authority, and that the treasurer and select board are authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project, provided, however, that this vote shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation of total taxes imposed by General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2.5, amounts required to pay the principal of and interest on the borrowing authorized by this vote.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. I've been approached and agreed to have a four-part presentation for Pro. It will be the chair of the Building Safety Committee, town administrator, police chief, fire chief. Please proceed.
Christina Madsen, 40 Rattle Hill Road, co-chair of the Public Safety Building Committee with Police Chief Illingsworth.
Get a little closer, Christina.
That better?
Yep, better.
Thank you. The Public Safety Building Committee has been working for more than 3 years to prepare to come before the Southampton taxpayers to financially support the building of a new public safety building. From the handouts that you received when you entered, you will know that we went through a systematic process of first identifying and evaluating all of the town and privately owned parcels that were centrally located, that were of sufficient size to potentially hold a new public safety building. The next step for us, and of that, from that study, we selected 3 sites. The site where the present firehouse sits and behind it at 210 College Highway, 79 Clark Street, which is a portion of the land that is owned by Marmon Keystone, and then the parcel on College Highway across from Parker O'Grady Law Offices. So those 3 parcels we then presented to the architects that we were then hired to do the feasibility study. And the feasibility study was carried out by HKT Architects from Charlestown, Mass. And that process was a long one, and they came out and met with the committee. They evaluated all 3 sites, and they had extensive meetings with the fire and police chiefs to determine what the needs of a town the size of Southampton are for a public safety facility that is sufficient now and some years into the future. So while HKT was doing that work, our committee also worked with Easthampton Media to prepare a video tour of the 2 present fire stations, the police station and the fire station. And that has been available on the town website. We visited other facilities that have towns of comparable size to Southampton's, visited their police and fire complexes to evaluate and to hear from them what a town our size needs. And and we prepared a report on that. Police Chief Illingsworth wrote up the results of those findings. We are well aware that the 2 neighboring facilities people have had an eye on, and that's Westhampton and Williamsburg. We did not select those because the towns are significantly smaller than Southampton, and they don't offer a good model for us. Westhampton is a town of about 1,600 residents and Williamsburg 25. So as a town of 6,000, we needed to go outside or beyond those 2 new facilities. We visited Granby and Hadley and spoke with those departments. HKT presented their findings at a public forum. Well, additionally, I should say that the 2 chiefs offered tours of their facilities so that our residents would have an idea of the kinds of conditions that they're working in at this time. HKT presented their findings, presented a beautiful new building at a public forum that took place about a year ago. It was about 27,000 square feet, and the projected cost was about $37 million. It was a lovely facility. I will say, too, that the College Highway site across from Parker O'Grady was the preferred site. It has the best soils, it's flat, it's very centrally located. So that was one determination that HKT made. Although the building that they proposed would have been a beautiful building and have really met the needs of our town now and well into the future. The committee felt that it was too much. We needed to reduce the cost, and we worked with HKT to further. There were two steps. We first of all reduced it one time and brought the cost down a bit, and then we reduced it further. So now from 27,000 square feet, we're down to 21,000 square feet, and the cost has been reduced by, I think Chris wrote 36%. So here we are. The committee is standing before you to request the financial support for moving forward with hiring an architect to come up with the working drawings, to develop working drawings, to be construction ready, and the hiring of an owner's project manager, or OPM. This is someone that is mandated by Massachusetts general law to oversee the project, coordinate schedule and the working of the contractors and the architects. So I will end by saying that the last time that a public safety committee came before the residents of Southampton, it was 10 years ago that the town was last asked to support a public safety building. In those intervening years, the cost has more than doubled, and if we choose to kick the ball down the road once more, it is certainly going to keep escalating. So I do urge, as voters are considering their support for funding this, that they keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Town Administrator will be next.
Mr. Moderator, Town Administrator Scott Zabak.
A little closer, Scott.
Sorry. Is that better?
Better.
Okay. So I have the unenviable task of talking about a tax increase with 100 taxpayers directly to my back. So please bear with me. As Christina mentioned, this has been an ongoing process for the last 3 years. As you can see through your handout, that we are on about step 3 of a 5-step process to build a public safety building. Today, we're asking for design and project approval for the architectural and owner's project manager part of this project. Now, this isn't going to be the first ask, and unfortunately, the public safety building isn't going to cost $3.2 million. There's going to be a second part of this, which is going to be for the remaining $24.7 million, likely in the fall. And then along the same time, there's also going to be a parallel project with the senior center, with the construction costs probably being asked for then. The senior center isn't asking for an OPM or architectural engineering today because that is primarily funded through the generous donation of the Parsons estate. So ultimately, what does the $3.2 million get the town? The first thing is the $3.2 million is going to be used for an owner's project manager, and an OPM is a requirement of Mass General Law for any public building project that's over $1.5 million. So we don't have an option to opt in or out for an OPM. The duties of the OPM would include providing advice and consultation with respect to design, value engineering, scope of work, cost estimating, general contractor and subcontractor pre-qualifications, scheduling, construction, and selection and negotiation with our designers and general contractors. Basically, they're the person that represents the town and the town's best interest during this construction project. The other part of that is architectural and engineering fees. To date, we've had a conceptual design, but that's not enough to go forward with a shovel-ready building project. We do need to make the investment to actually do the engineering and the architectural design that would actually provide us with the documents that we could go out to bid and hire a construction company. So the part that we're all looking at is the tax impact. Now, one thing I do have to say is that these are just estimates. I'm going to provide some estimates on what the impact is going to be, both for the $3.2 million and the potential future $24.7 million total ask. Now, if I could predict what the interest rates would be in a year and a half from now, I wouldn't be here. I'd be on Wall Street making billions of dollars. But everything right now is, to the best of our knowledge, based on a 30-year bond and a 4.5% interest rate. Now, that could go up or down, but we worked with our provider, Unibank, to get the best estimate for that percentage. So on average, and if you want to reference the graphs on the back of the handout, so on average for a $433,000 house in Southampton, this $3.2 million will cost a little over $69 per year. If you want to do the calculation for your own house, it would be about 16 cents per $1,000. The remaining cost, the $24.8 million, would cost a little over $550 per year. And again, if you want to do the calculations on your own value, it would be about $1.28 per $1,000. Now, one thing I do want to address is if town meeting approves this today and it goes towards the voters in May, and that's approved as well, this $3.2 million isn't going to magically appear the next day and it's going to be spent. It's going to take quite a while before we actually get to a point that we're in a position to actually spend it. So after the May vote, it's going to be anywhere from 30 to 60 days to prepare the request for proposals. It's going to be another 30 to 60 days to review them, and selection and contract negotiations is going to take at least another 30 days. So every contract that we would enter into would be contingent on the town funding the entire project. So no money is going to be spent until the entire project is approved. How we came up with that estimate, we've used industry standards, and I've consulted with our town administrators, multiple architects that haven't even been involved in this project, and the estimate is about 10% of the total construction costs for architects and about 4.5% for the owner's project manager. So those are the industry standards for determining those costs. Next, you're going to hear from the police and fire chiefs, but it's important to move on this because every year it is estimated that the project costs will increase by about 4 to 8% year after year. So I want to thank the town meeting members, thank the citizens of Southampton, the select board, the finance team, the finance committee, and all the volunteers that made this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief.
Richard Fasoli, 6 Friar Road. I've been on the fire department for 32 years now, the last 2 as interim and permanent chief. Our station was originally a one-room schoolhouse. It was built in 1863. The 2 in bays were added in the 70s. It became a fire station in 1949, so the fire station is 75 years old. Currently, to get into the fire trucks, the doors won't open all the way. They hit the walls inside. You actually have to pull the fire trucks out to let everybody in the trucks. There's trip hazards from the old school foundation along the walls that you have to be aware of. The roof leaks here and there, leaks in the office quite a bit. We patched it as best we can. The trailer was put on in 2018 next to the station for living quarters. We've had issues with that. That was a used FEMA trailer. That roof has leaked as well. We've had mold issues in there, which is a constant battle. We're just out of space in the station. So, I mean, it's time, but that would be up to the citizens to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Good morning, Ian Illingsworth, Police Chief, and the co-chair of the committee. I think to best describe the police department and its condition now, I think we have to start from the history of the building.
Closer.
We have to start from the history of the building. That better? Yeah. And the building was initially built, the police department, if you don't know, if you haven't been there, is the part of the old town hall. And that building was built at the turn of the 20th century, around 1904. And it was built in the traditional sense of a meeting hall, a large open space. And then in the late 60s, early 70s, it was, the interior of that building was remodeled to accommodate municipal offices for the town. And it also had a small addition, which you'll see if you've ever been in the back side of the police department, or the common entrance of the police department, the lobby, you'll see 2 garage bays. And as you walk in, you would see, you'd walk into the lobby, and then there's this office space. At that time period, where you see our dispatch center, where you're received by the dispatchers, or we're formerly received by the dispatchers because we now have regionalized with Easthampton. That was our police department. The 2 garage bays, that office space, and then 2 cells. In 2009, 2010, the town hall moved over to the old Larrabee School. And so we began to, we moved from that location and we started using some of the open space within that large building. Much needed open space. When I first started, we were in a garage bay. We moved out of that garage bay. The entire operations of the police department was in a garage bay. And currently our booking is in a garage bay, our booking facility. And we moved into offices that were open to accommodate our needs. And those offices are required offices. We needed an evidence room. We needed a evidence room for processing evidence. We needed a records room. We needed independent offices for detective. So we took over that entire building, but that building is not laid out for a police department. And one of the things that resonates with me the most is we're scattered all within that building. It's a large building. It's not even an efficient building for us. I think between the 2 floors, not accounting for the attic space, it's about 9,500 square feet. And the rooms are not designed for police department operations. And what resonates with me most is 2 things. When we arrest somebody, we have to put them down into a cell. When we put them in a cell, we have to make a step into a cell, a step down, about a foot down, and we put them into the cell. Well, oftentimes that person is under arrest for victimizing somebody. And when we have to bring the victim in to interview them or take photos of their injuries, that person has to walk by that cell block, by the person that just victimized them. That is not appropriate. That's what resonates with me, very significant with me. The other is, we are not ADA compliant. We do not meet the American Disabilities Act. And what I mean by that is, you can't walk in that building. If you are non-ambulatory and you need a wheelchair or some other form of assistance, you can't reach certain areas of that building in the operations of the department. And one might ask us, well, if that's the case, why don't you, if you have the room, why not just remodel the building? And I say that's not prudent because of the speaker just before me, the fire chief, and the atrocious conditions of the fire department. And then you might ask, well, why not, if you have that space, just stay there and renovate it? Or why not just stay there and keep it as it is? And I submit this to you. We are one ADA complaint away from major renovations of that building, because that is a public building and we have to make sure that everybody has access. And it's a very much of a concern of mine. And so that's why we need to have, that's why I submit to you that a public safety building is the most efficient way to go, because both buildings need to be functionally sound for both purposes.
Thank you. Who would like to speak in opposition for this article? Who would like to speak at all?
Maureen Groden, 8 Cheryl Lane. I'm very much in support of this. I think that the major funding of any town is the schools. There's other initiatives for senior center, for rail trail. Some people could say that it doesn't apply to everybody, but a public safety complex, fire and police applies to everyone. Everyone can be the victim of a crime. Everyone could need emergency services. Our town needs to keep this ball rolling. To me, it's clear that the people that have been involved have done due diligence to make this affordable, and we just have to keep moving down the road here. They're in substandard buildings, and I just think our employees deserve this, and so do the residents of the town. I just have 2 questions. The first is the auditor of the state did a study saying that towns can't possibly keep up with old infrastructure of town buildings, particularly in Western Mass. So is there any funding available from grants because of this, or FEMA, MEMA money that could help to offset some of this? Another question I had to do with, was the $1 million donation from the Boyle family used to offset the land price? And the other question I had is, why is this being separated into 2 separate bills if they can't go ahead and spend any money until the second vote is taken?
Thank you. We have some questions. Who would like to answer them?
I think I can try a couple of those, and I'll leave maybe the third one to somebody else. The state auditor's report, you're right, came out probably 2 to 3 years ago now, and just really noted all the poor infrastructure for public buildings, municipal buildings in Western Massachusetts in general. And there's been big talk about setting up a special fund to be able to help with the construction and repair or build new buildings. And it's been a bill before the legislature, at least for the last couple of years. It has not gained any traction. They're hoping to set up a building authority, kind of like what exists for the schools. But at this point in time, it's words on paper. There's no funding behind it. We're following it. We've been asking our legislators to support it, both at the state and, at the state level. And so it's on paper, but nothing in the foreground. Other grant programs that we've looked into do not fund municipal buildings. They want economic development type buildings maybe, but municipal buildings we have not yet found a funding source for, be it federal or state. Your second question about the donation, yes, the $1 million donation was put toward the cost of the land purchase, and so that had the actual borrowing for the land purchase at the 125 College Highway site is reduced by about $1 million when that goes out to the borrowing situation. Third one, Scott?
Oh, thank you. For the third question, the first answer is it's actually something that's was recommended by our architects, HKT. The other part of that is we're looking at around 6 months to move forward with just the RFPs for the architectural, the engineering, and the OPM costs. So if we waited until later in the fall, it would actually put us back about 6 months because we'd have to do that entire process first. So if it's approved today and by the voters in May, there's a lot of work that we're going to be doing in the back that the public won't see to prepare for that. So.
Thank you. Did that answer your question? Laurel?
I guess the other is, why aren't we voting on the actual construction?
One more question. Why aren't we voting?
We're hoping to have a clear picture, especially with interest rates moving forward before we ask for the entire percentage.
That answer your question? Great. Next person would like to speak?
Hello, how we doing? I have a couple of things I wanted to bring up. Excuse me?
Name and address.
My name's Nathan Bootlier. I live at 20 Thomas Circle. I want to bring up and ask why we're not presenting other options. Giving a yes or a no to a project without saying that there are other options available kind of backs the taxpayer into a corner. So I'd like to know why we're not talking about remodel costs, because I'm in construction and I know that remodels are always cheaper. They're not the most effective. You know, if your buildings aren't designed properly for what you're asking, obviously they're not going to be perfect at the end, but the cost could be half, if not less. You're already saying that your building is oversized. So by being oversized means that you have the room for a remodel. I want to bring up, you're also proposing a senior center on top of this and not showing us the cost for that on top. So if you tell us our taxes are going to go up $500-600 with this, but not showing us what they're also going to be going up with another proposed project, I don't know how we could approve this and something else without even knowing. I mean, obviously, I'm sure we all understand that these tax increases will not be removed. It's not going to be, once the loan's paid off, we'll take this away. It's always going to be a price hike.
Okay, we got your question. Let's get you an answer.
Okay, perfect.
Would like to answer the question.
I think I can answer some of that. As far as the remodeling goes, you're correct. With respect to the, do I have to address you or the gentleman?
Oh, just me.
Okay. With respect to the size, the adequate space in the police department, that is correct. However, both facilities need remodeling, and the fire department's location needs significant size increases to accommodate bays. What's important to know is a large majority of our town is not supported by town water, by municipal water. It's well water. And we have to have adequate bays for the fire department because every one of those fire trucks has to have water in them, including at some point we're going to have to get a tanker truck. The fire department right now does not have that size, and its current location cannot accommodate all those bays adequately based on the soil samples behind it. It's mostly ledge. It's very difficult to build there according to our research and our findings. The police department, and so the reason why we don't remodel the police department, because both facilities need the change, remodeling them both, I think, would not be cost efficient. If it was just the police department, I would say you're correct. But because it's both facilities and they need significant changes to share the infrastructure, to share the heating sources, to share the all the other components of a building would make it more cost effective.
Thank you.
Okay, there's other options that could be available, like partnering with a local town, saying some of our budget could go to Easthampton or Westhampton that have those facilities that could provide us support in lieu, of a funding, merging departments, or, you're saying that the fire department needs to become larger, so increase the size of the fire department. Why do we need both? If you have enough size in your department, 100% understand the ADA requirements. Why can't the building be retrofitted at a small cost to fulfill what you're asking and build just a small fire department that gives them what they need? $27 million, that's the other thing. I agree with the person who wants this. This should be all in one bill. This shouldn't be, we need money to see if this, for design costs. It should be all in one. What if this is approved, but in 2 years, the costs go up and now it's not $550 impact, it's $700 impact, and they say no, and we wasted $3.2 million. Doesn't seem to make sense in my opinion. It should be a flat decision on different options. It should be the building that we're looking to build costs $27 million. We could remodel, it wouldn't be a great decision, but it's $7 million. We could join with a local town, it would be this kind of impact. There should be options provided, not yes or no to an, I think everybody in this room agrees that you need a change, but giving a yes or no to a giant impact doesn't seem like a smart decision. I know that personally, if I'm gonna go buy a house, I don't borrow to get the house assessed. Coming to a meeting to say we need money to even come up with an idea to see if this is feasible is, in my opinion, ridiculous. It should be funded prior and say, okay, this is what the cost is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I could answer the second part of his first
Yeah,
question.
okay.
There are two types of borrowing, a Proposition 2.5 override, which this is not. If you have a Proposition 2.5 override, the debt stays there permanently. This is a debt exclusion. At the end of the 30-year note, that money is no longer collected in the taxes. So this just funds the project, project's done, tax goes away.
Thank you. Yes?
Jennifer Johnson, Rattle Hill Road. While I too fully support the idea that both the police station and the fire station, which I've been in and taken tours of, are in desperate need of reworking or a new building altogether, I think it's financially irresponsible to be doing this when you're not telling the town of the other financial deficits that it's currently facing with the voted on budgets of other things. Like, you're asking them to say yes to $3.2 million, and then you're gonna ask them to say, oh, but we're also short money here, and we're gonna need, a 2.5 override maybe to fill other budgets that are short. And it's just compounding over and over again. And then, like that other man said, you're gonna ask for more money for the senior center, and whether they may go away, that's 30 years from now. No offense, but a lot of these people are not gonna be here in 30 years. Sorry. Okay, so I just think it's financially irresponsible of the town to be asking for this money when you're not giving a full, clear picture of the full town finances at this exact moment.
We really can only discuss the motion under one article. And that's the concept of a town meeting.
That's fine, I'm just saying
it has
that
boundaries.
I'm telling you that I feel like this town is being financially irresponsible for asking for this one motion.
Thank you. Charlie.
Mr. Moderator, Charlie Konecki, Valley Road, Southampton. I've been on this committee for about 15 years now, struggling to try to get something formulated that's workable. I believe what's being proposed is workable. I move the question.
Seeing no one standing in line to talk, moving the question means that we're going to vote whether or not we continue or end debate. All those in favor of ending debate, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Please signify by saying nay. It's unanimous. We will now vote on the motion for Article 1. All those in favor on the motion for Article 1, please, actually we're going to do, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Please indicate by saying nay. Nay. All right, we're going to do a count. Counters, please. All those in favor of the motion of Article 1, please raise your hand with your card. For this one. Keep them high and let them count. If your arm gets tired, use your other hand to hold it up. The mic. The mic.
The count on the left side is 60.
How many?
6-0.
6-0. Thank you. This side can put their hands down. Sorry. Teamwork.
$63.
63, thank you. Those opposed, please indicate by raising your hands, your cards. Okay, raise them high. Thank you.
$18.
15, thank you.
18.
18, thank you. Zero? Oh, on this side, raise your hands if you oppose.
The count on the left side is 7.
7. The count is aye, 123, nay, 25. The motion for Article 1 passes, meeting 2/3 majority. May I hear a motion for Article 2, please?
Hello. I move that the town hereby accept the article as written to authorize the town treasurer to invest town of Southampton funds in accordance with the prudent investor rule.
Motion made or second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Who would like to speak on this?
One motion was read? Okay.
Hi, Jennifer Day, Treasurer Collector. Passing this article will benefit the community in that it will allow for greater diversification in our investments because it will allow us to invest over what's currently allowed under the Mass Legal List of Investments. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Anybody in opposition for this motion?
Maureen Groden, 8 Cheryl Lane. I have a question. Right now, our town has a elected treasurer position. This is in no way disparaging of our current treasurer, but our current position is elected. And so basically anybody can be elected regardless of any background or experience with finance. So I want to just clarify that this allows the treasurer position to decide. It says trust fund under the summary, but under the motion it says invest town of Southampton funds. So if someone could explain, is this just one bucket of funds, or is this all the town funds that we're going to invest? And I know that at one point the town administrator job description said that the town administrator was the CFO of the town. So I'm just concerned about the lack of check and balances on this. So is one person investing the town of Southampton funds without approval from the select board, the CFO, the finance committee? Is this one person's decision?
Thank you. Who would like to answer that?
I don't know if this is on. Okay. So right now, I am the person that invests in all of the town's funds. However, the select board does review the quarterly reports on that. I do take advice from them if they, have any suggestions as to how they would like me to invest. I did work with the COA board on the Parsons donation, and we decided that together. So although I am the sole decider, I do take advice from other boards.
Thank you. That answer your question? Good.
Jim Sini, High Street. I have similar questions. I think basically, I love this idea. It's another tool in the toolbox.
Right.
Sounds like a great idea.
Address me, please.
Yes, sir. My concern, Mr. Moderator, is there doesn't seem to be any, what I would consider appropriate guardrails on this. It's in a previous century, I earned a degree in business. It was a long time ago. But if I were an accountant or a controller, words like prudent, which sound very subjective to me, and who's monitoring the person making the investments? And I heard a little bit of that there, but this, it's one thing to have a fiduciary to hire for your own private investments. When you're investing taxpayer dollars, this feels a little open-ended and unbounded, and therefore, for me, concerning. So I'd love to hear not only from the treasurer, but also the finance committee, which recommended this, their thoughts on this.
Thank you.
Can I just say that we do use Bartholomew, an investment company, so it's not like I'm personally going out and doing the investing. We do hire a company to do that. And although it's prudent, it just diversifies where we can invest. It doesn't make it any more risky. We still have to follow safety.
That answer your question?
I think so. It's you say it doesn't, Bartholomew, or the rules don't change the guardrails is what you're saying? It just gives you more options?
Correct.
And I see
John,
someone
yes,
on the...
please.
Yes.
If I could maybe add a little clarity here. Currently, Bartholomew would still stay in place. The treasurer goes through a vetting process on who they select as their outside advisors. They provide quarterly reports and annual reports that all circulate to all the bodies seen up here. But they have to operate under what's called the Mass Legal List. Mass Legal List is solely maintained by the Commissioner of Banks. It is rarely updated, and currently you can invest in any railroad stock, in any bank that has chartered in the state of Massachusetts, Pepsi and McDonald's. That's it. By going to the prudent person, you're still restricted. You can only do what a prudent person would do. You can't go 100% into equities, right? There has to be that fine balance. Usually 25% in equities, 75%, which is all spelled out in that chapter. So this would just allow Bartholomew to go from 12 potential investments to probably 50, but it would be broader and we could get away from our railroad stock.
Answer your question?
May I, a follow-up, please?
Okay.
If I could.
Address it to me.
So, Mr. Moderator, my understanding is prudent is defined in Mass chapter. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. 4450. General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 54 spells out the parameters.
Thank you.
All right.
Who else would like to speak? Any questions?
I have a follow-up question, sir.
Okay.
The Finance Committee, I'd just like to hear from you. You recommend this. Did you have any concerns that I'm expressing here?
We have a representative of the Finance Committee answer the question, please.
Yeah. Overall, the Finance Committee believes that this actually is advantageous for the town. As John mentioned, it still constrains under Mass law the type of investments, the oversight, but it moves from a list that isn't being adequately maintained and updated by the state to one that can, better provide returns for our investments and for our funds for the town.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Maureen Grow, Nate Charlene. The question I had asked before that didn't get answered was, is this all funds or is this trust funds? The other point I wanted to make is in the summary, it specifically says prudent investing opens the door to all different investment products, methods, and risk profile. So I think it's important to just mention that it actually mentions a risk profile. Do we have the option of having a little bit more check and balance, such as the town administrator, who is employed by the select board? I guess my concern is that the majority of towns in Massachusetts, cities and towns, have an appointed treasurer. Southampton has consistently voted against that, even though I believe the Department of Revenue had at some point suggested that we have an appointed treasurer. So anyway, those are just two questions. Do we have an opportunity to have a check and balance on this particular article? And is there a difference between all the funds versus the trust funds?
Thank you. Who would like to answer that?
As far as the fund designation goes, this would exclude general funds, right? So it's not the general tax receipts. Trust funds that fall under the treasurer's jurisdiction. An example of a fund that would not would be the Almoners Fund. There's a separate board with governance and oversight on that. Now, the Almoners could vote to adopt this and communicate that to the treasurer and then follow it. But it would only be the trust funds outside of general fund, because general fund follows different rules. These are the surplus donations, scholarship funds, things of that nature that would apply to this. No general tax receipts, but it would include the stabilization accounts.
Did that answer your question?
The first one, do we have the option of having a check and balance on this article?
On this article, it's essentially written by the state and is suggested for adoption. Under our current structure of government, the treasurer is elected, and under Mass General Law, there are certain responsibilities and duties that they carry out. So we would have to look at changing or reforming that position.
Answer your question? Great. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 2, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion for Article 2 passes by majority. Mayor, a motion for Article 3, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to adopt and accept the provisions of Section 20 of Chapter 32B of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended by Section 15 of Chapter 218 of the Acts of 2016, establishing an other post-employment benefit liability trust fund, to authorize the Select Board and Treasurer to execute a declaration of trust creating an expendable trust for the purpose of holding monies appropriated to such fund, to designate the Treasurer as the trustee of such trust, to authorize the transfer of any and all monies currently held for the purpose of paying retiree health and life benefits to such trust, and to authorize the trustee to invest and reinvest the monies in such fund accordance with the prudent investor rule established under Chapter 2003C of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on the motion for Article 3?
Jennifer Day, Treasurer Collector. This is a housekeeping article readopting MGL Chapter 32B, Section 20, so the town can move forward with creating an OPEB Declaration of Trust. This will protect the OPEB funds in the future.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak in opposition for this motion? Any other comments, thoughts, opinions? Seeing none, we'll vote. On the motion for Article 3, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion for Article 3 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 4, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend Chapter 93, Chapter 93, Section 1 of the town's general bylaws entitled Annual Town Meeting and Election Dates by amending the existing language as noted, deleting existing language where noted, and replacing it with the new language as shown, as set forth in Article 4 of the warrant for the March 22, 2025 special town meeting.
Before I call a second, I'd like to call a deputy moderator. I'm going to step down for this because it involves town meeting, no conflict of interest, but I think that's the way it should be.
All right, motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Madam Moderator, nice to call you that. Chris Fowles, Chair of the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee. This is just a relatively simple change to change our meeting dates from an evening time on Tuesday nights to a Saturday morning, which had been the practice many, many years ago, in an effort to make it more convenient and hopefully attract more people to participate in their civic duties and attend a town meeting or a special town meeting. That's it. Thank you.
All right, who would like to speak in opposition? Any other? Yes, sir?
Carl Keener, County Road.
Will you come a little closer to the mic, please?
Carl Keener, County Road. I just have one question. There was a time when we had these meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we found that we had extreme problems getting a quorum to the point that we actually had to go out and stand on the street and ask people to come in. Now, I'm not going to say that this could happen again, but it's something to think about.
Who would like to respond? Other comments?
Robert Floyd, College Highway, Town Moderator. Close to the mic. This is a setup. Back when we didn't have the benefit of intranet, we have a larger population, we have Facebook, we have Easthampton Media. There's many ways of getting word out to the public, as exemplified today at our meeting this morning. We haven't met since 2007 indoors on a Saturday morning. I've heard, as your town moderator and as a citizen in town, many seniors and those with vision impairments complain about driving at night, period. And I feel that this is a more severe in the winter when it's stormy and icy. And I believe that having more participation strengthens our democracy, and I believe meeting on Saturday mornings instead of Tuesday evenings will be value to all of us in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? Questions? Seeing none, we will vote. Let me know if I do this one. Yes, all in favor of the motion under Article 4, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Please, this majority. All right, the motion under Article 4 passes by majority. Did I do that right? Oh, I think you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and that's what I call teamwork. May I hear a motion for Article 5, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend Chapter 234 of the town's general bylaws entitled Swimming Pools by amending the existing language as noted, deleting existing language where noted, and replacing it with new language as shown, as set forth in Article 5 of the warrant for March 22nd, 2025 special town meeting.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, Chris Fowles, Chair of the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee. The Bylaw Review Advisory Committee has worked with the building commissioner in particular to ensure that this bylaw meets updated building codes per the CMRs that are cited here, and this does strengthen our current bylaw for more safety around our swimming pools.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition?
Hi, I'm Tom Morse, 119 County Road. And reading this, it was kind of confusing on what they consider a lock. I'm not, what, not loud enough?
Tilt the microphone up.
Okay, here we go, again. It's kind of confusing on what they consider a lock on the gate and the latch. Is just a falling latch considered lock, or are we going to have to put a padlock on?
Thank you. Question made. Who would like to answer that?
My understanding of this is that it's a self-latching gate, so I'm not envisioning a padlock on this the way I read it myself.
Thank you. Did that answer your question? Great. Great. Well, yes, sir.
Mark Cassis, 19 Fulmer Road. I do not understand what a self-latching gate is. If someone could give further definition of what a self-latching gate would be.
Okay.
That would be when there's a pin on the gate swings shut, a little mechanism goes up and then captures the pin, and therefore the gate is locked. So, and it's at a height above that of a toddler, so a toddler could not open up that gate.
That answer your question? Great. Anyone else like to speak? Any questions, thoughts, opinions? All right. You don't need permission, just step right up to the mic.
Kurt McCarthy, Rosalie Lane. Is there any grandfather clause in terms of existing pools, or does this capture all pools?
Thank you. Thank you.
There's no particular mention of a grandfather clause. I'm afraid I can't really answer that, and I don't know that the building commissioner is with us today. I assume this gets us into the current building codes that need to be modified here, that needs to match the new building codes per the Building Code 780 CMR. I don't think I can actually answer that, tell you the truth, if there's a grandfather clause or not.
Thank you. That answer your question? No? I can't hear you from there, sir. If you want to be heard, you need to go to the mic. If you want to be heard, you need to go to the mic.
No, it doesn't answer the question, really. I mean...
Okay, ask it again, then.
Say again?
Please ask it again.
The question is whether this would be in accordance for all pools in town or just newly constructed pools?
I believe it was all pools.
Okay.
Who else would like to speak?
I'm Reggie Green, Gill Farm Road. The question about all pools and new pools, part of the change is to move the lot lines 15 feet to 15 feet from 10 feet. I mean, there are going to be pools that aren't compliant, so I would assume those are grandfathered. And I had a question as why we're moving the lot lines in. Because, I mean, sometimes you don't actually have a house that's right behind you. You might have woods. So what's the purpose of changing it from 10 feet to 15 feet? And the 40-foot setback.
I'll get you an answer.
Thanks. Again, to my knowledge, this is the new code as recommended by the state CMR. If you note too, one of the other changes in there was that the definition of the depth of a pool was anymore, I believe at one point, that was, what's being changed was only 12 inches or more, now it's 24 inches or more. So, and then the pools should not be less than 40 feet from the front line. I think that was pretty much, that was changed. The other one was, shall not be more than 10 feet, nearer than 10 feet was the old one, and now it's less than 40 feet. So I think this is just putting up the new code as been determined by the Massachusetts general law. So we're just trying to get in sync with the Massachusetts general law.
Thank you, Chris. Did that answer your question? No? Okay.
No. Mr. Moderator, as the maker of the motion, I don't know if it's appropriate, so point of order. Would it be appropriate, if this is deemed not an emergency motion to do, that we table this until the annual meeting to clarify whether it's grandfathered, whether existing pools that fall within 8 feet will now have to be picked up and moved, that we get clarification on those issues and perhaps lay this on the table or pass on it?
We're going to vote to table it to the latter part of the meeting. Will be a position after our last scheduled article. All those in favor of moving the article down the road, tabling it, so to speak, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, indicate by saying nay. Great, unanimous. We'll move it on. Let's move on to the motion for Article 6, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend Chapter 66, Article 3, Section 66-5 and 66-6 of the town's general bylaws entitled Naming of Public Buildings, Structures, and Lands by amending the existing language as noted, deleting existing language where noted, and replacing it with new language as shown, as set forth in Article 6 of the warrant for the March 22nd, 2025 special town meeting.
Second.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, thank you. Who would like to speak on this?
Chris Fowles again, Bylaw Review Advisory Committee. This bylaw was put in practice about 2 years ago, I believe now, and we've had various comments back from departments and some of the committees in town saying that they find it very confusing to actually implement. It's very stringent, and they requested that we try to simplify this a little bit to allow for more input and more autonomous decision-making. So that's where this change has been. It's intended to really streamline the process and simplify it. And if you know, we took out especially the entire section about things related to 25% of a building or a structure or a public land having to have a certain procedure. We've eliminated that altogether, basically to try and make this a little bit simpler, make a lot of the recommendations coming from committees or departments in town to the select board for local decision-making with the appropriate rationale for that. Once something is named, it would not be able to be renamed unless it came to a town meeting. But otherwise, this would allow more decision-making between the boards, departments, committees, and the select board.
Thank you. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Any other comments? Just come right forward to the mic.
Robert, I do. Robert, I have a question before you.
Maureen Groden, 8 Cheryl Lane. This, I was part of the original development of this particular bylaw. I think the naming of public rooms, buildings, fields, everything is a very, very important decision, and I think that the townspeople should have a say in it. I don't think it should go from being what was originally constructed as a town meeting vote to being a select board vote. When I was in the school committee at Hampshire Regional, there was an intention of naming a field. They wanted to hurry up and name it before there was even a policy on it. The things that are named up there are Zaylot Gym and Durunda Field, and then the cross country is named after someone else. So it tends to be named after people that have had positions of power, which happen to have historically been men. And I just feel like it should be a town meeting vote as to naming something in this town after an individual. I just think that's important that the townspeople get a chance to decide and not just the select board.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Christina Madsen, Rattle Hill. I just have a question about what Chris just said, and that is, I'm wondering, prior to the establishment of this bylaw, the first iteration of it, what was the standard for the naming of different locations?
Thank you. Would like to answer that?
To my knowledge, there were no standards that anybody had to follow, as far as I know. I'm not sure how some of the fields and places that we have as conservation areas were named in the past, but I don't know if all of those came to a town meeting or if they were just done by those individual departments. But to my knowledge, there was no structure process to name anything until this bylaw was first put in place a couple years ago.
Answer your question? You have another question?
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you. May I just make a comment, Mr. Moderator? I would be in favor of not allowing any public buildings or landscapes to be named after individuals.
Thank you.
Hello, Dan LaValle, Glendale Road. I thought it'd be good to
closer, Dan.
Oh, sorry.
We all do it to each other.
Yep, okay. 17 Glendale Road. So I want to talk about the history of why we bring the subject up, and it comes from the Conservation Commission was looking at our maps and the trails that we have, and while we have the whole area named, we don't necessarily have the individual trails named. So we're like, well, we want to name this one the green trail, the blue trail, whatever, just to make them distinct. So I think that was just so everybody has the history of how we got here. So that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion for Article 6. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. A show of hands and cards. All those, let's vote again. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your cards. All those who vote aye. Counters? The acoustics in this room are such that it's not an exact science listening to you vote. Arms up high.
Twenty-six.
26.
36.
36. Put your cards hands down. All those say nay. Voting against, raise your hand.
Sorry? 13. 1, 3.
13.
20.
20. The ayes 62, nays 33, passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 7, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town transfer $5,000 from the group health insurance account to the legal expenses account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, Scott Zabak, Town Administrator. This article would transfer $5,000 from the group insurance to our legal expenses fund. The town over the last year has taken a very proactive approach in addressing problem properties, many of which are in ongoing litigation, which we hope to resolve in the next couple of months, but primarily this is to allow us to continue and hopefully resolve a lot of those cases. Hopefully we don't have to expend it all. The other issues that are going on with ongoing legal expenses, which are kind of unique, were our land acquisitions, our cannabis host community agreement, several environmental issues, Greenway project, and some of our ongoing police and public safety issues. So most of the litigation is ongoing, but it's better to have the funds available and not spend it than to have to postpone or not move forward with a lot of these issues.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition to motion Article 7? Anyone who speak at all? Come right up to the mic.
I'm not in opposition. Maureen Grow, Nature Lane. I just have a question. Do all department heads need to go through the town administrator before expending any legal funds?
Question on the floor. Who would like to answer that?
Yes, they do.
That answers your question? Great. Anybody else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll vote. Motion for Article 7. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Do I hear a nay? One. Motion passes by majority. Do I hear a motion for Article 8, please?
Mr. Moderator, move that the town vote to transfer for the previous fiscal year bills totaling $21,452.28 as listed in Article 8 of the March 22, 2025 special town meeting warrant.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, Scott Zabak, Town Administrator. A lot of these expenses, which actually occurred in the previous fiscal year, are due to not receiving an invoice in time. In order for us to pay those, it does require town meeting to approve prior fiscal year bills. When you look at what is actually being asked, the majority of them, the elementary school bills, are due to not having the purchase orders and the invoices in time, and that's a lot to do with the transition of the school administration over the summer. The election registration expenses, technology expenses, machinery, the MS4 and the dog control are primarily due to not receiving invoices in time. The weights and measures as well. And the FY22 fire grant was an amount that we owe back to the state from an old fire grant that we discovered from about 4 years ago.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Any questions? Any comments? We're going to vote on this then. We need 9/10 approval. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion passes with our unanimously, meeting our 9/10 requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 9, please?
To see if, oh, no, wait for it. Move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $15,000 from community preservation surcharges to the First Congregational Church of Southampton for installation of 3 heat pumps in the portion of the church used by the public for community activities and to preserve the historic building.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition? Second, sorry. Use of that. Thank you. My bad. Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please? Teamwork.
Diana Fetterman, Birchwood Drive, and a member of the First Congregational Church. The church requests this community preservation funding to support its role in town as a historic landmark, a community meeting place, and a town-designated emergency shelter. The church has been an important presence in Southampton since 1743. In fact, the church came before the town. Today, the church hosts scout troops, theater groups, civic clubs, exercise classes, concerts, suppers, weddings, funerals, and of course, religious services. Its mission is to welcome all. In addition, the church and the town in 2019 signed an agreement designating the church as an emergency shelter in case of a disaster, including providing heating and cooling facilities. To keep a historic building in good repair requires modern updates. The Community Preservation Coalition, an advisory group, agrees, noting that, quote, many religious institution projects have been funded with CPA historic preservation funds across the Commonwealth, ranging in size from small, discrete repairs to complete rehabilitation. Churches played an integral role in the history of Massachusetts and are also often local landmarks. Many houses of worship continue to serve broad community needs, providing space for public uses. CPA funds can be a critical factor in successfully preserving and restoring these important historic community assets, end quote.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Liz Miller-Grasty on Douglas Road in Southampton, and I want to continue here. The church anticipates providing at least half the funding for the 3 heat pumps. They would operate in selective parts of the building, offering long-term cost efficiencies compared with the current aging gas furnaces. They would also provide air conditioning, which the church lacks. The installation would involve minimal alterations to the structure. The cost savings, improved air quality, and comfort would benefit all who use the building. The Southampton Historical Society wrote in a letter of support for this request that the church continues to serve as a vital center for this community. This building and the measures needed to preserve it for the future deserve to be supported by the town. Members and friends of the church are grateful to the Historical Society, town officials, and residents for considering this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sierra Simmons, 242 College Highway. I'm also the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. And the committee voted unanimously to support this project and move it forward to town meeting. Because it is a historic building. It's eligible under historic preservation. There has been in the past concerns about the funding, public funding of church buildings with community preservation funds. And we paid very close attention to this. And we put it through our town's legal, what are they called? Our legal people. And they did not see any issues with it. It's because it's for the part of the church that is used by the public, as Diana mentioned, for all sorts of different secular activities, that this falls under a community building and not under funding religious purposes. Additionally, I just want to remind everyone, like with every community preservation funding, this is not new money that we're spending. This is money that can only be spent on this specific purpose. So the money we'd be spending on this is not being taken away from any other key town services. It's literally only available to be spent on historic preservation.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition? Any other questions, comments? Come right up.
Maureen Groden, 8 Cheryl Lane. I support this, but I do think that the historic fund of the community preservation, this is a surcharge on our taxes, so it is paid by the townspeople, and it is voted by the townspeople, but I think that many towns deal with whether or not various expenditures are appropriate, like Hadley, I think, just had a vote involved a tobacco bar and so forth. So I think that it's important that perhaps people from Southampton or committees from Southampton, whether it's a historical committee and the church, maybe get together and establish a policy for what would fall under community preservation and what wouldn't. I mean, I agree that the church is a valuable asset in our town and we use it for lots of public things, but instead of voting every time the situation comes up, I think it would make sense if there was some parameters or policy around what expenditures are within the community preservation bucket and which are the obligations of the church.
Thank you.
C.R. Simmons, 242 College Highway again. All of those regulations and eligibility requirements are determined by the state statute, so the town doesn't really have control to change any of that. What the town has control of is the historical commission can designate that a building has historical significance, and we could change the parameters on that. But in terms of what community preservation funding can be used for and what's eligible, that's 100% controlled by the state statutes.
Thank you. I answer your question?
Yes, and that's why we're here today.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the motion for Article 9. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. The motion for Article 9 passes by majority. Don't leave yet. We have to go back to the motion for Article 5. Where were we?
Mr. Moderator, I withdraw my motion, and I suggest we pass on the article.
So we ready to vote?
On the withdrawal? Meaning I withdraw the motion before the body. There's nothing to be considered. We're going to take it back to committee. Right?
So we want to make a motion to kill it?
Correct.
Okay, there's a motion to kill it, means we take no action tonight, there's no debate. All those in favor of killing this article, the motion on the article, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. This passes by majority to kill the article. 5, we have a motion to dissolve our meeting, please.
Motion to dissolve.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This special town meeting is hereby dissolved. Thank you all. Thank you, Deputy Town Moderator, Town Clerk, Easthampton Media. Safe home.